Have you ever noticed how, as the years go by, you just don't show up the way you used to? Maybe you were the kind of person who was always out, dropping in on neighbors, attending every birthday, never missing a chance to socialize. But somewhere along the line, something began to change. The energy to go out felt heavier. The excitement of random visits faded, and deep down, you started to feel different. More selective, less available. And if that's you, you're not alone. In fact, that subtle shift might be one of the most honest things you've ever done. In this video, I want to share 6 real reasons why I stopped going around visiting people like I used to. This isn't about cutting people off or closing up. It's about evolving. It's about understanding how your time, energy, and emotional bandwidth begin to matter more than appearances. And if you've ever struggled to explain why you've become less socially available, stick around. These insights might help you feel seen and understood. Let's begin with reason number 1, preserving energy for the people who truly matter. As we get older, we realize that energy isn't infinite. It becomes a resource we can't afford to spend carelessly. Simple things like driving across town, making small talk, or sitting through long social events start to feel draining. Not because we don't care, but because we care differently now. We ask ourselves, who really adds value to my life? That question alone changes everything. In our younger days, being social often meant spreading ourselves thin to stay visible, relevant, and liked. But over time, the need for external validation fades, and we begin to choose depth over width. It's not about being everywhere. It's about being present where it truly counts. Let me tell you about Daniel. He used to feel guilty every time he declined an invitation. He worried people would think he didn't care. But eventually he realized something. The people who really valued him never needed constant meetups to feel connected. Once Daniel began investing his time in the few people who brought peace and purpose into his life, he stopped feeling drained and started feeling fulfilled. It's not about becoming antisocial. It's about choosing who gets your time. Because not everyone is entitled to it. Real love doesn't demand constant presence. It understands silence. It honors space. If this resonates with you so far, keep watching, because it only gets more relatable from here. Dean. If this has ever been your experience, drop a 1 in the comments so I know you're here. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next parts in this series. Your support helps us create content that speaks to the soul. One of the most valuable lessons that time teaches is this: not all social interactions are worth your peace. In the past, you might have tolerated drama, endured long-winded conversations, laced with gossip, or sat silently through awkward family tensions, just to be polite. But now, your threshold is different. You no longer feel the need to engage in environments that drain you emotionally or mentally. You've begun to recognize something incredibly freeing. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's wise. There was a time when Mia felt obligated to keep showing up. To her family's cookouts, her cousins' gatherings, her friends' never-ending venting sessions. But each visit left her more exhausted than before. It wasn't the event. It was the emotional weight of being in spaces that didn't feel kind, respectful, or emotionally safe. One day, after another dinner where she felt more judged than welcomed, she made a quiet decision. No more visits out of guilt. She would only show up where she was celebrated, not just tolerated. You might relate to that feeling. Leaving someone's house, more stressed than when you arrived. And it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. The sly remarks, the constant complaints, or the unspoken pressure to perform or explain your life choices. It builds up, and eventually you realize you're giving away your calm in exchange for chaos that isn't even yours. The truth is, your energy is sacred. You are not obligated to walk into every room where you feel tension. You do not have to sit through conversations that pull you down. You don't owe anyone your inner peace, especially not for the sake of tradition or appearance. Consider this your permission slip to be selective, to say no without explaining, to excuse yourself from environments that don't nurture your spirit. Because the people who truly care about you will understand that your well-being matters more than your physical presence. If you're still watching and this part hit home for you, comment 2. There's something sacred about the space you've created for yourself over the years. Your home becomes more than a shelter. It becomes a sanctuary. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start to prefer it over unfamiliar places and social obligations. You no longer feel that pull to be everywhere. You stop reaching for your keys every time someone mentions a get-together. Instead, you start asking yourself, do I really want to leave the peace I've built here? This isn't about avoiding people. It's about choosing peace over pressure. Years ago, Leah would never miss an event. Baby showers, birthday dinners, housewarmings. She was always there, dressed up and ready to mingle. But over time, she began to notice something. The most relaxing moments of her life weren't in crowded rooms. They were the quiet mornings on her porch, the calm evenings with tea and a good book, or the joy of simply being barefoot in her own kitchen, not performing for anyone. As we get older, we become more sensitive to our surroundings. The wrong energy in a room can feel heavier. Loud environments, constant small talk, or unfamiliar homes might not feel as inviting as they once did. Maybe the chairs aren't comfortable. Maybe you're always on edge in someone else's space. Maybe it's just not your rhythm anymore. Your home is where your soul exhales. It's where you don't have to explain yourself, where your favorite mug is always clean, and where you're free to be exactly who you are. And the more life you live, the more you understand that being comfortable isn't being antisocial. It's being honest about what you need. Look at someone like Jordan. He used to say yes to every invite out of politeness. But he found himself watching the clock at every event, waiting to go back home, not because he didn't care, but because he craved that sense of personal ease. One day he stopped pretending. He stopped forcing smiles and started extending invites to his space instead. And suddenly, socializing felt natural again, comfortable, even joyful. So the next time you choose your home over a gathering, remind yourself you're not hiding, you're healing. You're honoring the environment that brings you peace. If this speaks to you, drop a 3 in the comments so I know you're here. And if you're finding this series helpful, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell. Part 4 is coming and you won't want to miss what's next. Something shifts when you realize that more isn't always better, especially when it comes to friendships. In your younger years, you might have prided yourself on having a full contact list and an overflowing calendar. But at a certain point, quantity loses its charm. You no longer feel the need to keep up with everyone. Instead, you begin to crave a few authentic relationships, the kind that feel effortless, healing, and honest. There was a time when Camille was constantly juggling social circles. She was the planner, the check-in queen, the one who kept every group chat alive. But over the years, the energy it took to keep so many connections going began to wear her down. She realized most of those friendships were built on habit, not heart. And when she stopped putting in the effort, many of them faded away. But a few, just a few, remained. Those few were all she needed. This is the power of choosing depth over reach. You start to notice which relationships leave you energized and which ones leave you feeling unseen. You become okay with drifting away from people who once felt close, not because of bitterness, but because your values no longer align. And the beautiful thing, the friendships that are meant to stay no matter how much time passes. Think of Olivia. She once felt guilty for not texting her old friends every week. But eventually, she noticed something. The real ones didn't mind. They could go months without talking, and still pick up right where they left off. No guilt, no pressure, just love. Real friendship doesn't demand constant contact. It respects your growth. It celebrates your silence. It understands your absence. And it always welcomes you back with open arms. So, if you find yourself drawing closer to just a handful of people, take heart. That's not a loss, it's a refinement. You're not pulling away. You're prioritizing connection that actually matters. If this part resonates with your heart, comment "forward" down below. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, so you don't miss the final piece of this series. The last part might bring you full circle in a way you didn't expect. As life continues to unfold, something profound begins to happen. You stop explaining your choices. You no longer feel the need to justify why you don't show up to every gathering, return every call, or visit people like you used to. It's not because you've become distant, it's because you've become clear. Clear about your time. Clear about your peace. Clear about what matters most. As you grow older, your priorities shift inward. You no longer chase connection. You nurture it. You no longer say yes out of guilt. You say yes when it feels right. You begin choosing presence over pressure, and it changes everything. Let's talk about Marcus. He spent most of his adult life showing up everywhere. Birthdays, reunions, neighborhood events, you name it, he was there. But eventually, the constant movement left him empty. When he finally gave himself permission to slow down and honor his own rhythm, something beautiful happened. He felt peace, real, deep peace. And the best part? The people who truly loved him understood. They didn't need constant proof of his loyalty. They just needed him when he was ready, present, and whole. Real friendships, the kind that anchor your heart, don't require you to be physically present all the time. They thrive in trust, in stillness, in knowing that love doesn't demand, it accepts. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is honor where you are and trust that the right people will meet you there. If you've been struggling with guilt over how your social life has changed, let this be your reminder. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're becoming more in tune with what your soul truly needs. Your peace matters. Your energy matters. Your time matters. So, whether it's choosing comfort over obligation, depth over appearances, or solitude over noise, you are allowed to make those decisions without shame. This is your life, and you get to live it your way. If this series resonated with you, comment 5 below and share one insight you're taking with you today.
Lion, your voice matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments.
And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Your support keeps us going and helps us share messages that truly uplift and empower. Thank you for watching. You're not alone in this journey, and we're so glad you're here. Until next time.